Yeah. I hope you're going to be able to hear me with this in here. Can you hear that? Yeah. Good. Well, I'll try. I want to tell you something. Like I said, oh, he's got that poem again? Well, yeah, because I don't come to Florida often, and I know that some of you have heard it. Oh, by the way, is Cheryl Milligan here? Hi, Cheryl. How are you? Very well, thank you, and thank you for the bird in the window. Did you find Carolyn?
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad you got to. See, we have to get up together with all these people here, you know. Oh, my, I tell you, there's so many of them. Who else is here that I know? How about Pat? Is Pat here? Hi there. There's another one over there that I know. Yeah, yeah. There's Pat. Hi, Pat. How are you? Nice. We're all just getting together, you know. This is one of those friendly things. Where is my fan club president? Where is she? What's her name? What's her name? What is your name? Sue, introduce yourself to you, will you? I wanted to make her talk, see, but she won't talk. She just stands and stares at me. Anyhow, that's Sue Keenan, and she followed me all the way out here. I followed her, actually. Sue is a very wonderful girl, and she has done a marvelous job for me through the years, and Sue knows that I love her and that I'm very appreciative of all the wonderful things that you've done to the. I want to say it to you right here in front of all these marvelous people.
Marvelous people.
What is that? What is that?
Well, I just wanted everybody to know that Wednesday's your birthday.
Yeah.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Dean. Happy birthday to you.
Come in small packages. I see it's little.
Well, the convention also has two gigantic ready to come in for you.
Oh my goodness gracious. I hope there's enough for all of us, gang.
I think so.
My goodness gracious. Look at that. Look at that. Happy birthday. Look, they've got a doctor. Can you hold that up and show it to you? They've got a doctor with in the middle of the cake. Can you see that? This one is from Sue and the gang, the club, and it says,
That's from the USS Phoenix from Starfleet.
oh, USS Phoenix. This is from USS Phoenix, Starfleet. Thank you very much. I'm glad Sue's here. She works for Pan American Airlines Freight, and Japan Airlines Freight, and I'm going to need that to go home with. Thank you very much, Sue, and thank all of you for that. Look at that. We're going to light that baby. I can handle that.
From Vulkon, from Central Florida.
This is from where?
Basically your Central Park.
Thank you very much. All of you. Thank you, and it's all autographed. Isn't that lovely? How old did you say you are? 138. Thank you very much. Oh, we're not through yet.
No, these questions come from Cape Canaveral.
Oh, these came from Cape Canaveral. Oh, isn't that lovely? The strength of America's the Challenger. Yes. Yes.
Sign from the people.
Oh, sign for the people there.
Cape Canaveral.
Isn't that nice? From your friends at the Orbital Processing Facility, Kennedy Space Center. Yay! I'm flattered. Thank you. That's very lovely. I appreciate that. I certainly do. What is this? Happy birthday to Deforest Kelley, trekking across the stars.
Yeah.
From the Shuttle Eagle. To a man who's boldly gone where no man has gone before. You can say that again. My God, there's a picture of me here lying in, what is it? Oh, the Empath. This is from the Empath. It's a beauty. The poor guy's on his back and he's saying, listen to me, I'm a doctor, I know. Thank you, Don Smith Weber and the Columbia crew. You know, there's the episode on the New Generation that I did. That came about in a rather odd way. I was at Paramount Studios one day some time ago, and I was coming down the hall, and Dorothy Fontana approached me. She said, Dee, come here a minute, I want to show you something. So she had the script in her hand, and I read this scene, and I said, I don't know. I said, it's a beautiful moment, but I said, I don't know whether I can do it or not. I didn't know what my situation was with Paramount now that they're doing the series and we're doing the motion pictures. And I also had a strong feeling that the first show should not have anything with the old guys to do. And she said, I wish you'd think about it and consider doing it. Several days later, Gene Roddenberry called me, and I met Gene, had lunch with him, and I began to reflect over how much Gene Roddenberry had truly meant to me in my career. I first met Gene in 1960, way before Star Trek. I did a show for him called 333 Montgomery, in which I portrayed a criminal lawyer for him, and that's when I first met Gene. And he had been influential in my career for some time after that. He had continually been, he put me in another pilot too called Police Story. And then he wanted me for the original Star Trek. But the network felt very badly about me because I had done about 10 or 12 years of nothing but just bad cats. And I mean bad, like, you know, Apache Junction and everything. And so they just couldn't see this guy as a doctor. So anyhow, they got another guy, a very fine character actor named John Hoyt. And they had another character actor named Paul Fix, who did another one of the pilots. And so Gene had shown the film to me and asked me what I thought about it, and I said, well, I was not a science fiction fan at all, but I was completely fascinated with that show. Particularly at that time, you have to go back and think how far out that show looked then. So it's now, so many of our young people are so accustomed to science fiction, but it wasn't that way at all then. So I told him, I said, Gene, I think it's going to be the biggest hit or the biggest miss that God ever made. And it turned out to be a bit of both. But anyhow, eventually they screened Police Story, and the network changed their mind after they saw Police Story, in which I portrayed a criminologist. So I called Gene to thank him for having put me in these 2 pilots, one practically consecutively, see, and he said, well, don't hang up. He said, the network is switched, and he said, they want you for the doctor now. So that's, briefly, I'm giving you the story of my life. That's with Gene, and that's how that came about, that I got it. So I began to reflect about how much Gene had meant to me, and I decided that I would do the old man for him as a token of my appreciation for what he had meant to me during my career. And that is the reason I did the old Admiral. And I'm very pleased with the mail that I have received from so many of you, the fact that you like it, and I want to thank you for it. Thank you. I have a little poem here that I wrote in 1977, and it's the story of Star Trek. We, at that particular time, there was no hope at that time for Star Trek. I had been attending some conventions, early conventions, 1 or 2, and there were tremendous crowds in New York and Chicago waiting for us. And one day I did come home and I told Carolyn, I said, I don't know what's going to happen with Star Trek, but I said, something down the line is going to happen. I said, there's too much enthusiasm for that show since it went off the air. Well, of course, it did revive itself. But I don't know, one day I started to write a funny verse about, I don't know which one of the characters it was, and Carolyn laughed and said, I think that's very funny, why don't you continue with it? So I ended up with this silly poem, and I first read it at a convention in Los Angeles when it was first heard. And everybody seemed to get a kind of a kick out of it. But it's kind of the story of Gene Roddenberry. It was after we had all gone our own way, and they decided they were going to bring Star Trek back. And they were trying to get us all together again. They didn't know what to do. Star Wars was a big hit, and here they were sitting on this property. So Gene had had all of his problems with NBC out there on Hollywood Way. That's where it's located in Burbank. And of course, Leonard at that time was doing a play in New York, Equus or Equus, however you wish to pronounce it. George Takei was heavily involved with the city of Los Angeles, working with the mayor on the mayor's staff. And he was still going around with that crazy laugh, that ha, 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 ha. You know, we'd be on the set shooting a scene, and George could be out in the street with those doors. And you'd hear this, ha, 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 ha. This first assistant would say to the second, for God's sakes, go out there and shut George up. You know that, don't you, Mark? Yeah. I was in the hotel where I was staying last night. One of the waiters came over. He said, I was so surprised to see you here. He said, Mr. Takei, he said, was here with us not long ago. And he said, I heard this laugh out in the lobby. He was down in the bar. And I said, I know that sound. And he said, I went down there, and he said, sure enough, it was Sulu. But anyhow, we'd all gone our own way, and Michelle at the time was working with the Space Administration. So I put this thing together. It's rather self-explanatory, and I hope you might enjoy it. If you can indulge it again, I shall. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away. Oh, I must preface it. It's called The Big Bird's Dream. Now, he's known as the Great Bird to most of you, but during the series, when we got in trouble, we'd say, get the Big Bird down here. So that's why we all called him the Big Bird. So the reason we refer to him. And at that time, when I wrote this, Star Wars was burning up the screen, and that's the reason I let off with that line, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. There lived a big bird nesting on a play, and he thought if he could hatch it and get it on the air, he'd make himself a fortune and build himself a lair. The day finally came, and his story was born, and he let out a cackle, no more corn. And he flew from the nest with the play in his claw, certain to sell it, for it had no flaw. Now, the story he hatched within this yarn took place on a ship as big as a barn. And he flew from the nest with the play in his claw, certain to sell it, it had no flaw. Now, not only that, it was in outer space, far removed from the human race. Its crew searched the universe for worlds unknown, to teach and learn, and not to try to own. Not only that, they built a new nation, this time known as the Federation. Now, all of this taking place in the skies on a starship known as the Enterprise. Now, wouldn't you think with a plot like this, the big bird had what couldn't miss? Well, he landed in Burbank on Hollywood Way, headed east to sell his play, but things weren't as easy as he thought they'd be, particularly when dealing with NBC. The Enterprise crew was one of a kind, superb in their work, with good things in mind, different in color and different in race, green, white, yellow, and one blackface. At first, the black was not to be, till the big bird screamed at NBC. It's either she or I, he began to yell. Who knows who's gonna ring whose bell? With great reluctance, they agreed to say, okay, fellows, we'll do it his way. At a later time, on another day, they'd be the first to boast they went that way. Now, most who read it said this bird is nuts, but there was one among them possessed with guts. Let's go with this bird, loud and clear. He's saying things people should hear. Let's give it a try and hope it will work. So spoke the head of the big network. So the pilot was made, and they all took a look. My God, one shouted, he's filmed a book. Another one yelled, it's too far out. I don't understand what it's all about. But the one with guts had a grin on his face. Now he was ready to state his case. Far out, he said, I liked what I heard, and I'm still going to go with this crazy bird. So they made another pilot with a change here and there, and finally they got it on the air. The big bird felt a sense of elation after so many days of complete frustration. But now he knew a big job was done, and he was proud of his fine new son. One thing was left for the big bird to do, find a name for his dream come true. So he gave a big party so the brass would appear to name this dream that he held so dear. And when the party calmed down and the feeling was mellow, the bird stepped forward to christen this fellow. Lift your glasses, he said out loud. I've got a new baby of which I'm proud. And he took an edict from his hand, the symbol he'd created for the change in man. He placed it tenderly around the small neck and in a mellifluous voice said, Star Trek. The brass with guts jumped up and down. My God, he said, what a sound. How did he think of such a name? It's commercial as hell. It's the name of the game. Well, the public loved it, but the Nielsen was low. And they tell the networks what to show. The word was out for all to hear, Star Trek dead after second year. The rest is history, as you surely know. For you, the fans, save the show. The millions of letters that you sent the brass simply knocked them on their ass. But after one more year, they put it away, not knowing it would rise in syndicated play. Then came conventions and letters and toys, reruns and ratings and lots of noise. Finally, the studio was heard to say, we'll remake Star Trek another way. How will we do it, one of them said. Not as a series, the reruns aren't dead. Well, let's do it as a movie or a special or a play. For heaven's sake, let's do it some way. Precious moments are flying by, and the actors are aging and soon may die. Oh, God. Are they still available, or should we recast? Without the originals, how long would it last? Go get the big bird. He knows where they are. And have him remind Spock he's still not a star. We've got to keep their egos down in case replacements can't be found. So in flew the big bird, ready to squeal, naturally anxious to make a deal. First he said, we should discuss the star, for all of them probably think they are. Now don't be funny, an executive said. That's the case, the whole thing's dead. Well, what's with Shatner? How does he look? Well, I don't know, but he's written a book. Seems he wanted the world to know how he suffered making that show. Well, what's with Kelley? What's with his life? Oh, he's living in the valley with the very same wife. Years tour, God lover. I know one thing that's bugging him. He's sick of that line. He's dead, Jim. Well, now, what about Doing, the one with the brogue? Well, he bought a motor coach and he's hit the road. And he's grown a beard and it's silver and black. And he said he wants to keep it if he comes back. Well, what about Decay? He flew the damn ship. Well, he's into politics, a whole new trip. He had a job on the mayor's staff, but they couldn't take that crazy laugh. Okay, what about Michelle, the one you said would ring our bell? Well, she's working for NASA and goes all over the nation. They're trying to interest women in the space administration. They're using the Enterprise to colonize space and can't seem to do it without the female race. She says she's had it with communications and wants to come back in public relations. Well, where the hell is Koenig, the young Russian lad? Oh, he's writing for films, and he's really not bad. As a matter of fact, if he can be found, he could be the one to get this off the ground. Well, that just about covers the entire crew. Majel's no problem. She's married to you. Don't you believe it. Not on your life. I don't make deals with my very own wife. And even though she's married to me, she still commands the same high fee. And if this show goes, she'll be back, you can bet. I've never written a script without her yet. And there's one more actor that you've left out that I really think you should talk about. I know it's something you hate to discuss because it's going to create quite a fuss. I'm referring to Nimoy and what he has to say. He's in New York doing a play, and he's portraying a doctor, and he says it's a joy, and he might come back if he could play McCoy. McCoy's role, the executive said? My God, man, he's out of his head. Well, I'm telling you, that really takes guts. The brass will think we've all gone nuts. What about Kelley? If Spock plays McCoy, he'll just flip if we get another boy. The big bird spoke with that smile on his face, the one he wears when he's solved a case. Easy, gentlemen, don't worry about that. I can fix him in nothing flat. So just relax and calm your fears. I'll paint D green and give him the ear. So that brings us up to where we are today, with thousands of people gathered to say, Star Trek lives, it will not die. When will someone make it fly? I won't read this one, but I wrote another one that followed that one up for the 20th anniversary of Star Trek. I know that you're probably anxious to ask me some questions, and maybe I can learn something from you. You know? Okay? Yes?
What's McCoy's middle name? It begins with an H.
Wait a minute. Horatio. I didn't say this was a trip. Oh, I forgot. I didn't say this was a trivia contest. Oh, you know, I'll tell you a funny thing, though. When I mentioned the fact that Gene Roddenberry said he would paint D. Green and give him the ears. Before we did Star Trek, after I had done these 2 pilots for Gene, he approached me one day in the commissary, and he said, "D," he said, "I have 2 properties," he said, "for CBS that I'm going to do." He said, "One of them is a Western called High Noon." Remember the movie High Noon? He said the other one, he said, is a science fiction show. And I said, "What'd you have in mind for me with that?" He said, "Well, there's a character in there," he said, "he's green and he has pointed ears." I said, "Forget it, Gene." I said, "I'll take the Western." Never did the Western, and fortunately he didn't put me in the part of Spock because Leonard was so marvelous in it, but I think it's a funny little thing to look back on when I think about it. Yes, in the black hat.
I have something for you first of all. I saw it. Oh no. Read it out loud.
He's dead, Jim. You grab his tricorder, I'll get his wallet. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if there's any role either on the show or anywhere else that you've always wanted to do that you never got to do.
No, of course, you know, we had anticipated going the full 5 years. And I had looked for, we were planning an episode concerning McCoy's daughter. Joanna was to have been called. Dorothy Fontana had wanted to do that had we gone another season. And it would have been an interesting story that she was coming aboard the ship as part of the crew, and she was going to, Kirk was going to be, you know, the stud was going to be chasing her. And McCoy would have come somewhat upset about that. So I thought that would have been an interesting episode. Yes, way back there in the center. Yes, you, with the big long arm. We're loving if she wants to know if I would do another episode of Star Trek The Next Generation, would I? I don't believe so. No, I don't think so. I thought it was nice. If you spent 5 hours putting on that makeup, you wouldn't need it. I fixed Bill Shatner. They can't kill me off now, can they? You know, I must tell you, that was brought to mind by, I don't know, Chris Smith or Sue Keenan, and somebody wrote to me and said, mentioned that fact to me. That never entered my mind because I never put any faith in it anyhow in the first place. And I didn't care what they decided anyhow. It didn't make a damn to me. But the point was, I never thought about it until whoever it was wrote this note to me and mentioned that fact, and I thought, that's very funny. You know, I really never thought about it that way. The thing I enjoyed about doing that episode and playing the 137-year-old Admiral is everywhere I go now, they say, "Gee, you look so much younger in person." Spend it, you're going to be in trouble. She came down and she's been helping me spend it ever since. That's true. That's the truth. That is a true story. I met her in the play called Innocent Young Man. That was the name of it. And I really was then. Yes.
Yes, I want to let you know that I Norton did the rendering of the Challenger.
Oh, did you? That's a beautiful piece of work. This gentleman did the rendering on the Challenger. That's a beautiful piece of work. Yes.
Open the greens, please. The one in green package. Lift it up. The green package on the bottom. The big one.
Oh, I see. It's
not that.
Oh, it's not this.
Oh, yeah, it is.
This one. It's that kind of a gift, huh? One of those things that blows up. I know that. I know that. Put my eyes on his right. Oh, nice.
Hold it up.
Bazusa, my medical insignia. Peace and long life and happy birthday from the crew of the USS Phoenix, Orlando, Florida.
Yeah.
Made for you by Robin Douglas. Thank you, Robin. That's lovely. Thank you. In an emergency, I can use it as a scalpel. Yes, in the white, yes.
We also enjoyed you very much as a pilot. They went into deadly years here yesterday. And I can't tell you how good a job you did 20 years ago. I also want to say that we enjoyed Margell very much up there in Margell Series.
Who? Oh, Major Barrett, yes. I understand. I was out of town. I didn't... Yes, of course. Yeah. Well, yes, I'm sure that Maisel's a very talented actress, and she just hasn't been given the room to do it. And as my poem says, he's never written a script without her yet. She deserves it. They tell me I have time for 2 more questions here. Who have somebody way back there, I know it's difficult for you to see. Yes, how about that arm over on the left there?
Shelley, in the series and in the movie, there are a lot of scenes generally at the end between you and Leonard and William that usually end up being funny. I'm wondering if any of those are done off the cuff or if they're all written in that way.
When we did those epilogues at the end of the show, they were usually written, and we would take a look at them, and if they weren't just right, we more or less put them in our phraseology, and sometimes did change some of it in order to get more spontaneity with it. And we were very fortunate during the series. There was a marvelous chemistry with Bill and Leonard and myself, and thank you. The reason I mention that, and I certainly don't intend that to sound egotistical in any way, but it's very rare when you can put, say, 3 actors together like that don't know each other and have never worked with each other before and have that kind of chemistry happen. And whether it was intended on Gene Roddenberry's part or an accident, it worked extremely well for us, and we were able to play off of each other that way. Now, I must say, I did work with Leonard once before, which he reminded me of when we first started the series. And I said, what was it? I don't remember you. And he said, it was a Virginian. He said, you played an alcoholic doctor. It's true. And I said, yeah, I remember that. I said, who were you? He said, I was the patient you let die. That's true. That's a true story. I don't know that he even had a line. He had a groan or something like that. But I thought it was very funny. Yes. Hi, how are you?
Wonderful to see you down
Thank you.
I just want to say, we talked about you coming to Florida someday on the cruise.
Yes.
And I want to thank you, Carolyn, for making dreams and wishes come true.
Well, thank you.
And it was wonderful seeing Carolyn, and I always love seeing you no matter where you are. And I hope we see you again.
Well, thank you. How nice of you. How nice of you to say that. I'm very proud to be here, too. As I say, I have never been here before, and this is a wonderful opportunity for me to say hello to all of you who have been so faithful to all of us. And I will have the privilege of going from here to Fort Lauderdale and doing a gig there before going home, so that's going to be fun too. That's where you live, isn't it, Pat? Somewhere near there?
East Coast.
Yeah, East Coast, I see. Yeah.
Ask you my question. I always ask you every time.
Yes? Do we still, she wants to know if Carol and I still have myrtle. We have this turtle, which we always say we enjoy having around because we like to have something that's older than we are. The turtle is 85 years old. If today, maybe 90. Some friends of mine gave her. Yes, she is in hibernation now. She goes into that hole and she won't be out again until around March. Yes, one more question from somebody. Yeah, oh, there you are. So tough to be overlooked, isn't it? Yes? Yes. What's your name?
Brian.
Brian?
Brian.
B-R-I-A-N?
Right. Could you put to Matthew, please?
And to Matthew. You'll hang on just a minute, won't you? There you are.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you.
You bet. Good luck to you. Bye-bye. Don't fall down. You know, some people have asked me about the autograph situation, and I want to, I've said this before, some of you have heard it, and I'll tell you the reason I did an autograph session. I had 2 occasions to where I was to do an hour autograph session, hour and a half, 2 hours, and at the end of that period, the line was still there, and it has to be cut off. And those people had been standing there for like 2 or 3 hours. And so I decided that I cannot, in the 2 incidences that had happened, the people who sponsored the convention ended up with a great deal of alienation of the fans. And I decided if I can't do it for everybody, I don't want to do it that way. So I hope you understand that. Let me say again, before I say goodbye, how wonderful it's been. I thank you so much for this wonderful reception that you gave me. And I'm so pleased to be here, and I wish you all a long, happy life, and may you live forever. Thank you.